Well, I've got my leather jacket on, so that can only mean one thing. Yes, today I am reviewing Series 1 of Doctor Who. It was 6:30 p.m. on the 25th of March 2005, 20 years ago, that the long-awaited, much-anticipated, brand new revived series of Doctor Who aired on BBC One in the UK, starring Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor with his companion Rose Tyler, played by Billie Piper. And of course, the series was made possible thanks to Russell T Davies, who is running the ship. And many people at the time thought it probably wouldn't last one series. It had been axed back in the 80s, and the revival in 96 never took off. So there were many naysayers that thought it wouldn't happen. But here we are 20 years later. In that time, we have had 5 new Doctors, 6, 7, 8 new Doctors. And the show has gone from strength to strength. And whilst there have been some controversial episodes and series and ideas, I don't think anyone can argue that the first series was not a success. Was a success. You know what I mean. And so, without further ado, let's look at the first episode of Series 1. Episode 1 was called Rose, and it was directed by Keith Boak and written by Russell T Davies. And this is my thoughts. It was a great first episode for a reboot. Not the best episode ever, but for a reboot it was very good. It honoured what had come before, with the Autons and the TARDIS and everything, and the sonic screwdriver. But it also made it accessible to new viewers. You didn't have to be a fan of the original series to enjoy it. It was very cleverly done so that you could come from old and come from new and still enjoy it. And yeah, it was a good use of the Autons and the Nestine consciousness. The Autons were first seen in the 1970 series Spearhead from Space, which was the first story featuring John Pertwee's third Doctor. And they had appeared once, maybe twice in... Actually, it was once more in Terror of the Autons that they appeared officially in canon. But there was some like unofficial fan-made movies in the 90s featuring the Autons. But yeah, a great first episode. It really did kind of set the scene. Cleverly done because it was done from Rose's point of view. It started off with Rose, and something happened to her at work, and then this strange man entered her life and whisked her away and saved the day. So it was interesting seeing it from that point of view, rather than what they could have easily started from the Doctor. But it was very good starting the story with Rose Tyler. One thing I wasn't really sure about was the character Clive. Although he's a great actor, whose name escapes me right this minute, I'll put it in a caption. The character, nothing really wrong with the character, but I wasn't really sure about the whole myth aspect of the Doctor, because the impression we get when the Ninth Doctor comes into Rose's flat, sees himself in the mirror, it's almost, he's acting as if it's the first time he's seen himself in that incarnation. So to have the Ninth Doctor appeared in the picture taken at Dallas 1963 and the Titanic, it seemed, I don't know how else they could have executed that, or maybe they should have did something with it in a later episode, but that's the only thing I wasn't entirely sure about. And they certainly shouldn't have killed him off, Clive, that is. That was cruel. But other than that, great episode. I would give it 7 out of 10. Very good first episode. Really, it did really draw you in for the next one. The second episode, The End of the World. Again, great, kind of really straight in it. It took place straight from the end of the previous episode. It was a direct continuation, although a separate story. And the Doctor and Rose travel to the future, where they witness the end of planet Earth. And great cast of characters, interesting scene, the Mox of Balhoun and the face of Bo and Cassandra. Cassandra, pretty good villain. Not the scariest, but fairly interesting. A trampoline lady. And some great ideas there. It was good for setting up some of the lore and the rules that they didn't address in the first episode, about the Time War and the Time Lords dying or being killed. And it's a good episode. Not a strong plot, if I'm honest. I wasn't really sure about the Doctor walking through those fans. Fans going incredibly fast, and the Doctor just kind of closing his eyes and walking through without getting hurt. The Doctor works best when he's not a superhero. I don't think we need to make the Doctor into this superhero that can do all these fantastic things when they need to. That was my only complaint with that episode, really. Again, the series does get stronger, but yeah, it was good. It was okay, and I liked the ending where they go back to Earth, and it's just a busy London street, and the Doctor and Rose just go and get some chips, nice and grounded. So yeah, I'd also give it 7 out of 10. Episode 3, The Unquiet Dead, set in Victorian Cardiff, featuring Simon Callow as Charles Dickens and Eve Miles as Gwyneth. Eve Miles, who would later appear in the spin-off series Torchwood as some kind of weird genetic descendant of Gwyneth. Anyway, I prefer it now to when I saw it years ago. I wasn't really a big fan of it when it sort of first came out, and I would often skip it on rewatches. In terms of Mark Gatiss, who wrote the episode, it's one of his best episodes. I love Mark Gatiss. I've never been a huge fan of his Doctor Who stories, but this wasn't a bad one. Good casting though, with Simon Callow and Eve Miles, and yeah, the plot was alright. It's kind of filler, but it did nicely set up the rift in Cardiff, which would play a huge part in the series, and especially in the series of Torchwood in the future. I don't know if that was planned by Russell T Davies right back then, or if it was just a happy accident, as Bob Ross would have said. But either way, yeah, it's alright. I would 6 out of 10 for The Unquiet Dead. Sorry to interrupt. If you're enjoying this video and would like to see more of the sort of stuff that I'm putting out, then please feel free to hit the button that says subscribe down there. And of course, just near that, there's one that's shaped like a bell. It's very unclear, but if you press that one, you'll also be notified when I put a new video out, which is daily pretty much. And don't forget to like the video and put something in the comments, whatever it might be. And if you're really feeling like an absolute dude, you can subscribe to my Patreon channel. The link is going to be there in the description. And that way you're not going to miss out, and I get to keep doing this kind of stuff for you lovely, lovely, lovely people. Thanks very much. Now back to the video. And now we get to the revived series' first two-part story, Aliens of London and World War III. Definitely not my favourite story, but it's a good two-parter, and it's good to get new viewers in sort of gently. A decent plot, with the hoax pig alien and the spaceship crashing as a kind of distraction and everything else. And the Slovene, the backstory of the Slovene was all right. I just feel that the episode was let down a little bit by. It was quite childish with the Slovene, with the fart gags, and the kind of the Scooby-Doo scenes where they're running through corridors and going backwards and forwards, and you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. And the fart gags, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson, and I love a good fart gag. But when it's kind of invited, I don't really need to see that stuff in Doctor Who. But that aside, it's okay. The special effects are quite dated now, but hey, it was 20 years ago, so who am I to judge? Overall, I would give the two-part story 5 out of 10. I think. Yeah, a low 5. But great cast, great acting. Yeah, and Steve Spears in it, of course, who's a fantastic Welsh actor. But yeah, that was Aliens of London and World War III. Episode 6. Now this is a particular highlight of Series 1. The episode Dalek. So the Doctor had established in episode 2 that the Time Lords had been wiped out in the Time War, and it turns out that it was the Daleks that they were at war with in the Time War. So the Doctor believed that the Time Lords and the Daleks were all completely non-existent except for himself, until they find one single solitary Dalek that had survived the Time War and was being held underground in a facility by Harry Stanton, a vastly wealthy entrepreneur who owned the internet. Remind you of anyone? And he collected aliens and alien artifacts, but they didn't know what the Dalek was. Metaltron they called it, and it wasn't until the Doctor appeared that they saw the Dalek's true character. And as is expected, the Dalek managed to escape. And contrary to a lot of people's belief, at the time a lot of people thought it was the first time that you saw a Dalek flying, but that had happened way back in Sylvester McCoy's story Remembrance of Daleks, and also prior to that in a Colin Baker story, something of the Daleks that begins with R. I always get them mixed up. But you know the one I'm talking about. It was a very good episode though, based on the Big Finish audio 40th anniversary story Jubilee, written by Robert Shearman, who returned to write the script for this TV episode. It's just very, very good episode. It shows the Doctor almost as the protagonist. The roles are kind of reversed. So the Dalek is the victim, and the Doctor is the villain that's just wants to brutally kill the Dalek. So that's a very good take on the characters there. And interesting seeing the Dalek suffering, because it feels emotions and it can't stand it. It calls it sickness. I would give the episode Dalek I'm going to say 8 out of 10. I would have gone to 9 if only for Adam. And I'll talk more about Adam in the next episode. So that was episode 6, Dalek. Episode 7, The Long Game. Meh, it's alright. It sets up future episodes nicely, but other than that, it's just kind of middle of the road, forgettable episode, filler. Plot's alright on Satellite 5, with the news channel and all that, and the editor, and I'm not going to name that alien. the Jagrafess, I think, was the shortened version, a huge name that Simon Pegg had to recite, and Simon Pegg criminally underused in the episode. When you've got Simon Pegg in your show, you don't just have him in a suit playing it fairly straight. He's capable of so much more. It was a shame that he wasn't used better. But it's 20 years later. I'm sure they can get him in again now, reuse him as a different character, more to his potential. So The Long Game, I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. It's alright, it's not that great. And of course, it has Adam, who I'm so glad wasn't a full-time companion. Was it Bruno Langley that played the character? Not the best acting, I'm going to be honest. I'm not slagging the guy off. He had a comfortable living in Coronation Street, but it wasn't great, and the character was very shallow, and yeah, I'm glad they got shot of him. That was episode 7, The Long Game. Episode 8, Father's Day. Good episode. Great concept and execution with the Reapers. Interesting that we haven't seen them since in future episodes. But yeah, great casting with Sean Dingwall and Camille Corduri, and obviously Eccleston and Piper doing what they do. It was one of the highlights of Series 1, not going to lie. Yeah, great story and execution, with Rose wanting to see her dad, who died when she was a baby. And of course she goes and interrupts that happening. She saves his life, so he's no longer dead, and that creates this huge paradox and everything. So the Reapers appear. It was very good, very well done. Maybe canonically it didn't add much, but it was a good showcase of the acting skills there. I'm going to give Father's Day I want to say 9, but I only gave Dalek an 8. I'll have to say 8. Father's Day gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Unlike on May 21st, 2005, Doctor Who fans were introduced to the writings of Stephen Moffat. Yes, he had written for the comic relief special, The Curse of Fatal Death, back in 1999, but this is his first proper episode, and he'd go on to write many more, some of the most popular episodes ever, and he was showrunner for a few years. And I'll talk more about it later, but I love Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who stories. And this was the first one, The Empty Child and The Doctor Dancers, another two-parter. Creepy concepts, multiple things to keep you thinking with the phone, the TARDIS phone ringing, the gas mask, Are You My Mummy, Captain Jack Harkness. Yes, Captain Jack Harkness makes his first appearance in these stories. The scar, all these things, these mysteries. Like, what on earth is going on? And the Tudor warship, the ambulance. Just anyone listening to this, what on earth is he talking about? You have to watch it, but it all comes clear. Fantastic episode, really, really good. Set during the Blitz in the Second World War. Just Stephen Moffat doing what Stephen Moffat does. Truly, truly great episode. Probably my favourite episodes of Series 1. I am going to give the two-parter 10 out of 10. Yep, it gets a 10 out of 10. Absolutely, it's that good. Look forward to more Stephen Moffat stories. Me talking about them in the future. Can't fault it. Really, really good. And like I say, the introduction of Captain Jack Harkness, who becomes a huge part of the Whoniverse in the future in the TV series Torchwood. Now up to episode 11, Boomtown. I think it was a bottle episode, one that they did on a budget. It seems to be, but that I'm not taking anything away from it. It's not a bad episode. It's kind of a follow-up to the Aliens of London and World War III. That story with the return of the Slovene Margaret. Can't think of her Slovene name, but you know how I mean. Played by Annette Badland, and I think it's better than the initial story with the Slovene. It handled some stuff very well, and we see the return of Mickey Smith, Rose's boyfriend, who I hadn't mentioned up until this point, played by Noel Clarke, while he was still alright. It is a bottle episode. It does appear to have been done on a budget, but that's good. And they address the rift in Cardiff again, which, I mean, it's not a huge part of it, but it will play a big part in the future. Decent episode. I'll probably give it 7 out of 10. And then we come to the final stories, episodes 12 and 13 of Series 1, Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways. This was Christopher Eccleston's last story. Sadly, we only got one series from him, although he has done some Big Finish audio adventures since. So they're quite different episodes. Let's break them in half. So episode 12, Bad Wolf. Throughout the whole series there's been Bad Wolf in the background, little references to graffiti that says Bad Wolf, and really tiny mentions of this phrase Bad Wolf. And it turns out the Bad Wolf Corporation, the TV station that's pumping out loads of different channels all the time, and it's very dated. And when I say that, I'm not talking about like the special effects and things, but the TV shows that they use in it. The Weakest Link with Anne Robinson. What's the Trinity and Susanna one? How to Look Good or something? I don't know. And Big Brother. Those shows in 2005, they're not really still around now. Certainly not in the same capacity. So the danger when you incorporate current things into a series like that is it does date it. It very much puts it in a particular time frame. But it's alright, Anne Robinson and Trinity and Susanna and Davina McCall doing their voicing their robot characters. But yeah, that I'll let it go. It's a good story, good characters with Linda with a Y, and Patterson Joseph, who plays Alan Johnson in Peep Show, great actor and would very much make a good Doctor himself, I think. It's all right. But part 2, the parting of the ways, was a superior episode to part 12. I know I said the really bad sentence there. Part 2 is better to it. Yeah, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. know what I mean. Parting of the ways. Yeah. The Doctor sends Rose back home in the TARDIS and traps himself on Satellite 5 when the Daleks invade. But Rose manages to break in with the help of Mickey, Jackie, and a JCB. And she stares into the heart of the TARDIS and goes back. She has all this magic powers now. She creates life or something, as she says. And Captain Jack, is killed by a Dalek. But Rose kind of clumsily brings him back to life. And there'll be more on that later, but she doesn't control it. She brings him back to life permanently, so he can't die. But you don't know that at this point. That comes later. And then to save her, the Doctor has to take the vortex out of her. I only watched it recently as well. I only watched it a month or two ago. Anyway, but it causes the Doctor to die. Of course, the Doctor doesn't die, he regenerates. And it was kind of thought later on, because it was only after episode 2 or 3 that it was announced that Christopher Eccleston was stepping down. So it was all kind of quickly thrown together. But yeah, great regeneration from Christopher Eccleston at the end. And then we see David Tennant at the end of that episode as the 10th Doctor. And I'm sure we'll talk more about David Tennant later. I would give... Am I going to mark them separately or together? I think if I was to mark them separately, I'd give Bad Wolf a 6 out of 10 and Parting of the Ways a 9 out of 10. So let's go for 7.5. Can I do that? It's my show. 7.5 out of 10 for Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways. Yeah, so all in all, a great series. Maybe not the strongest series, but it was a great first series. It really did set it up well, and it was a huge success. And it could easily have failed, but it didn't. And here we are 20 years later making videos about it. So, well done, Julie Gardner, Murray Gold, Russell T Davies, Christopher Eccleston, Billie Piper, Noel Clarke, John Barrowman, Camille Kaduri, Sean Dingwall, all of those that made it possible. Gareth Harper, was he part of Series 1? I think he was. Phil Collinson. And yeah, that was my review of Series 1 of Doctor Who. To give the series as a whole a score out of 10, seven. Series 1 gets a 7 out of 10 from me. So yeah, maybe a year's time I'll be reviewing Series 2. Yeah, that was it. Catch you later, Bill and Ted. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and would like to see more of the sort of stuff that I'm putting out, then please hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. Hit me up with a like and a comment, and watch one of these other magnificent videos here. Thanks very much. Keep it real. Keep it country.